Hello and welcome to the Scriptcase video. My name is Jamie Oates and I will be showing you today how you can create a hotel check-in or rental check-in and check-out system which you could create or use within a property where you are renting out rooms and providing services. So within this platform you will be able to manage the service staff and waiters as well as the users of the platform and allow check-ins and check-outs for the visitors of your location, for instance. Okay, so this is starting off with the login page. We're first of all going to have a look at what the platform looks like and what it provides. And we will be creating all of this during the next 3 videos. So there are 3 videos for this session. So we take note of that. It will be part 1, part 2, and part 3. And in part 1, we will be creating first of all the initial applications and the check-in, check-out system. The part 2 we will be managing the services, and then in part 3 we will do a cleanup, create the security as well as any other final elements that need to be added. Okay, so let's start off then. I'm going to log in now and we can have a quick look at what's actually happening here. So we have down here first of all a menu where we have then the reservations. We can manage here the customers, and then as a customer we can then come and reserve a location and specify reservations for our property. So with a reservation and customer details, we take in the customer passport. We can upload then the documents that we have taken. We can list our services, view service requests as well as the services that have been delivered. We have then also the customer check-in and also the customer check-out. So in both of these, like the customer check-in, we can see here, for instance, once a customer has registered for a reservation and reserved a room within the location, then you can come in and then check the customer in, or the customer can check themselves in. They add in all of their details, upload the documents and so forth, and then the customer will be checked into the property and will be able to order services. Now during the checkout, once the customer is ready, they will then be listed here. They will be able to check out and review the services provided within the location. So this is everything we will be looking at. We've got here the settings. We also have here the management for service staff as well as the waiting staff, and then the security, which is then also created by Scriptcase. So the entire platform does take around 3 to 4 hours to build, possibly longer depending if you wanted to make changes to the database and so forth. Now for myself, it did take us slightly longer. One, of course, because of the translation from Spanish to English. Myself not being Spanish, so that was quite difficult. But then, other than that, if you would then go ahead and take this database and the project as it is, you already have a great starting point to actually create this sort of platform and customize it for your own location, hotel, residence, whatever it is. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the database because there are quite a few fields here. Now if I zoom in here, we have here first of all the security tables which are created or generated from the security application within Scriptcase. Okay, so these are the default tables. We have then here also the rooms table. Within the rooms table we have the room number, the room name, the room description, how many guests the room can accommodate, a picture of the room as well as the picture name, its size, if the room is available, the public price of the room, and also the room type, which is linked here to the room types table just below. And there we just have a description, what kind of room it is. Okay, so below that we have here the table for the available rooms. Here we store the room ID, the customer ID, the reservation ID, as well as the arrival date and checkout date, and then also again if it's available. So here we have then the services table. So here we then manage our services or store our services which we offer to the guests of this location. Here we have then a service name, service description, a public price, an offer price or sale price, the start date for the offer and also the end date for the offer, if it's available, how many minutes, as in the duration, and then also a rating as well as a picture to go along with the service. Below that we have here the stages table. Here we just have a description for each of the stages which applies to services, rooms and so forth. We have then here the reservations table. Here we capture the arrival date, the arrival time, the checkout date, the checkout time, as well as the customer ID and the current stage. We also take then the system date time, so that we have the actual time of the user who is actually processing the request. Okay, so then we have the check-in table as well as the checkout table. So for the check-in table, we have the arrival date, arrival time, checkout date, checkout time. We also capture the customer signature, the room ID, customer ID, as well as the reservation ID. And again, here we capture again the system date time of the user performing the action. We have then the checkout table. So here we have the confirmed payment, as well as the capturing of the customer signature. So when they check out, they will sign the form, and that will then be stored within the platform. So we have then here where we capture the room ID, the customer ID, the reservation ID, the checkout date time, the service ID, the service rating, as well as the room rating, service rate, room rate and total rate. So the charges that will be applied to the checkout. So these then are then also calculated within the platform. And then also the service rating. So here we apply then a rating where we can then ask the customer to rate the service or rate the hotel, room, location, whichever. Okay, so we have here also to the right a view table. Now here for the check-in, we provide, instead of providing access directly for end users to our actual tables, we create views and combine various elements of various tables that we want to have available for this specific view. So within this view, we are using here the arrival date, the arrival time, the checkout date, as well as the checkout time, the room ID, the room number, the room rate, the total room rate, the room type, the description, the customer ID, the customer name, phone number, email, as well as then the reservation ID, the service ID, as well as then the service reservations X customer ID, which is a table we'll come to in a moment, the service employee ID, whether has been delivered, so that services and so on are all good, the waiter ID, delivery date times, the service names, the public price, offer price, start date, end date, and then also the rating. So if I scroll down here, we then have here the view for the reservations. So here we have then the customer ID, the customer name, the country documents, as well as the country where they come from. So we capture their documentation, as well as then the customer details, the country itself, the arrival date time, and then the checkout date time, as well as then the stage. And we provide then also description and the system date time. So to the left here, we have then two other tables. We have here the service reservations X customers and the room reservations X customers. So here again, we are capturing specific data and then presenting that within our platform. So here for the services reservations X customers, we have here the reservation ID, the customer ID, the service ID, the request date time, the service employee, whether it was delivered, and the waiter that actually delivered it. So here we have basically the capturing of the services and the employee aspect of that within our project. So here we are basically saying when the service employee makes a request for one of the guests, it is then captured in here. And then when the service is then delivered by the service waiter, whether that is the same staff or a different staff member, that is then also captured in here and then indicated. So we have then the same relationship for the room reservations X customers. So here we have the reservation ID, the customer ID, the room type ID, as well as the arrival date, checkout date, and the system date time of the user. Okay, so if I scroll over here to the left, we have here the customers table, as well as the countries and country document tables. So here for the countries, basically just a list of countries, the document types associated here to the country table, we're using here the country ID, and then depending on the country, we have the specific types of documents required for our customers, as well as also our service employees and waiter employees. Okay, so we have the other two tables here, table employees services, table employees waiters. So if I start here with the customers first, we have here the customer num document, and we see the same here, employee num document, employee num document. So these two tables are identical, okay, they are the same. The only difference here is the main ID, okay. And then for the customers, we do have some various other options here. So we have the customer gender, two phone numbers, the customer address, the front picture and back picture. Now these two items are pictures of the document that we are capturing, okay, not actual physical pictures of the customer. We have then the customer ID, customer email, the country ID, and then the country doc. Now for the employees, in both tables we have the number of the document, the employee name, their birth date, their phone number, the country ID, the user login, which is then associated here to the users table, and also the country document again. Okay, so now with all the tables here, we can have a bit of an idea of what data is being captured, as well as what information is being relayed to the users of the platform once it's going to be constructed. So now that we've had a look at the database tables, let's continue on within Scriptcase and start to construct the platform. Okay, so we will start off by creating a new project. And here I will start creating a blank project. Now I do already have some icons here to use. And what I'm using here is the icon finder. From Icon Finder, I'm using here the hotel service icon set. So here I've downloaded a selection of these icons in various sizes, and I will upload them all to the project in a moment. And they are then also available within the project. So thank you to Yogi for providing these for free. And yes, if you of course use them within your own project, you should note Yogi's name and also a link to his page to of course say thank you. Okay, so within here we can then start off by adding our project icon. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to open up the side menu here and then select here in the tabs here the project, and then here icons. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go file and then upload, and I'm going to upload all of my images. Okay, so once you've navigated to your images and selected them all, they will then all start to upload. So you can add them into your project. So adding now into the project here, and then they will be available for the entire project. Okay, so we can see them starting to load now. And then once it's ready, I can select here the hotel icon, which is the one I want to use. Okay, so quite a few icons there. Okay, so I'll select the icon I want to use now. I'll add that, and that will now display for our project. So here I'll then add, say, hotel, check-in, check-out system. Let's do that. Okay, so we can add in a description. So here, for instance, check in and check out system, manage also surfaces. Okay, so keep it simple. And of course you can update this or change this for within your own project, or within this one if you are going to use this project yourself, this template. Okay, so we then select our database, and here I'm going to use the MySQL MariaDB. And my database should be automatically connected, so I should select here the list databases, and I see here I already have an issue. So just give me a moment and let me check then the database. Okay, so I just started my database. I hadn't actually started it yet, so I should have it there available now. I'll just click list databases, and there we go. So here I will then come down and select here the hotels database and test the connection. Okay, so if you don't get actually a connection here, we can change our connection name and indicate a different server or host, being then the server name you are connecting to or the IP address in most cases. We can also change here the MySQL driver we're going to use for the database connection if what you have here is not suitable. Do note you have various security options, filter options, as well as advanced options which you can also configure for the database connection if you need. Okay, so I'll leave the connection as it is now and go ahead and go next. So we select now our languages. So from here I can choose English. I can add further languages if I please. So I can come here and I can choose other languages. Say for instance, if I wanted to add, say, German, you find German here. And then I have the various German variants. So we have a German from Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, and also the Swiss German. So we can add those and we can specify which one would be default. We can apply regional settings to each of those also and add further languages to our platform if we wanted to. Now, if we did do that, then all of our tables would be completed with language variables. Now, I have done this in a previous video. I won't be doing this today, I'm afraid. So this template will not have languages. You will need to add it yourself afterwards. Now, before I do continue, I will note that there is one downside to adding languages later to your project. So say for instance you start your project within Scriptcase and you know, for instance, you want to have multiple languages now, then you can add them now and Scriptcase will automatically provide you the language keys for those applications which you generate, the default language keys. So if you add them later, then you could be missing out on that, and it does actually provide a little more work to apply it. So if you know immediately you want to have multiple languages, then add them straight away and just deal with it as you progress within the application. Okay, so I'm going to go next now, and from here we're going to choose our theme. So I'm going to go with the blue SC9 Blueberry here. So I'll select default, making this my default theme within the project. And I will remove the sweet blue, so I won't be offering the option for multiple themes, because we could do this also and provide the end user the option to change from one theme to another. Okay, so I'm going to go create now, and our project will then be started. Okay, so as we have no applications created yet, we automatically get requested to create some. And we could now go ahead and create the applications we want, or we could close this and make some further changes or modifications to our project. So the first thing I want to do is add here in root an admin folder so that I can manage my project applications a little easier. So here I will go admin and go create. Now, each time I create a folder and I have not created any applications yet, I will be requested to create a new application. So I'm not going to do that yet. I am going to, however, come here to application and go batch applications. And I'm going to create a few applications in one go so that they are out of the way. So we have here, first of all of our tables which we can select from. And here I want to select a few tables, such as we have here stages. So I'll create stages as just a form. I won't need for the admin a form and a grid, because we just have a form for that. We can then also have the room types, which can then also be a form. And here we can then possibly have services. Where's the services? So services. So here I'll create the form and the grid. Okay, so I'll go next. Now for stages, we want to use, say, multiple rows. Room types, I use multiple rows also. For services, we'll use a single row, and we can then just either update our application names here. So here I will remove the form. In fact, no, I won't do that. So I have here for the form room types. Yes, I will remove that for the room types, and I will remove that here for the stages. And here then we have the services. So here I'll leave them as form and grid, and we could then also add a description here if we wanted to. In most cases, I would say go ahead and do that, really depending on your application. If it's one or two applications, then not a big deal. But if you're having 50 plus applications within your project, adding descriptions will help you as you progress. So if I go ahead and generate and go to edit, it will then now generate these applications and also open them ready for me to edit. Now that our applications have been generated and are ready for us to edit, we can have a quick look at them. So starting off, we have here our grid services and here our form services. And then we also have our form room types and form stages. So if I start with the form room types, we see here that it is a multi-record form. If I run that, we can then have a look at the form and see that we have this pre-made, all ready to go. And with some slight edits, this form will look really nice for our project. So let's start off with, first of all, here within the form settings. I'll zoom in a little bit, you can see here a little better. Now here within the settings, we have here the new option, which has been just recently added with one of the latest updates, which is the vertical alignment. Now here, if I select here top, for instance, and if I run that again, you'll see that it would take the grid and stick it to the top of our viewport, or the application basically. Okay, so returning back to Scriptcase, what I will do then is I will set here a 100% value for the table width, run that again, and just like that, our first form is just about ready. So I'm just going to make some quick changes here to the header. So returning back here to Scriptcase, I'll come here to layout, here to header and footer, and here I will remove the date and change the title to room types. Okay, and if I run that again, we can see then that our header has now also been updated. Okay, so I'm going to now apply the same to our form stages. So again, here settings, select the vertical alignment to top and change the table width to 100%. Again, access here the layout, header and footer. Notice that I have the automatic saving enabled. If you don't, you will need to save the application before continuing to the next step. And again, here I will remove the date and just enter here stages for the title. I can run that again and we will see that we now have the same layout with our stages grid, our stages form, sorry. Okay, so now if I close then the room types and the stages, we're left then here with our services. So if I run here, first of all, the services grid, and now do notice that first of all, I do have some information here still in Spanish. So it's just food, drinks. So these are the services that are available. So I've updated a few here. We have the 4-day golfing excursion, a kayak excursion, art gallery excursion, and then here this could be menu items, for instance, and drinks. Okay, we have then also the public price, the sale price, and then also the date when the offer starts. Okay, because I use the batch generator, the form is automatically linked to this grid. So if I click here on the edit, we can then access the form, and we have then also, so I'll just go like so, we have also here the option for the add new, which will then also open the same form again. So both of those options are added because we batch generated the grid and the form together. Okay, so for other grids and forms, we will be linking those manually. And first of all, let's go ahead and make some changes here. So we don't need for this grid the detail, summary, chart, or the search options. We just really want the grid. So I'll leave that here as it is. Now, save that. And then we can go and run that again now. and we will see first of all some minor changes here. The detail option is missing. Okay, and then now if I come here to settings, I'll set again the vertical alignment to top, and then again we can run that again, and we will see now the grid will nicely snugly fit within our viewport. Okay, so we can make further changes here again with the layout for the header and footer. So again, I'll just type in here services. So I'll just edit that, services, remove the date, and we can run that again, and just like so, our header has been updated and our grid for our services is ready. Okay, so now what we want to do then is modify here the form. So here we have the form, which we can then edit. So if I come here to the form, and we're going to leave it as a single record. Again, come to settings, set the vertical alignment to top, and if I run that, we'll need to set the width to 100% again as well. Nice and snug to the top, and I'll set here 100%. We then have our form fitting beautifully. Okay, so one of the other new options is here, scrolling down, is the input width to 100%. So I'm going to apply this. I do like this feature, and this also adds to the mobile use, I would imagine. So let's have a look at that, and we can see here by applying that, we have then the fields will then increase to 100% of the column. Okay, so now if I come then here to layout, and I'll apply the header footer first of all. So add services, and here we can then update service, add service, update service. Okay, so then here I'll change that, save that, and then so we run that quickly and have a quick look at that. Okay, so I've just changed here the header again, and what I'm going to do now is returning back to Scriptcase, come into blocks, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set here the position to above, and I will also go ahead and create a new block. So I'll just call this block 1 and go create. Okay, and if I run that now, well, first we'll see that the titles are now above the fields, and the new block, we won't see it yet because we have not added any fields into it. So if we go ahead and do that now, so I'll scroll back up here and access here the edit fields, and then here I can just drag and drop these values to where I want them to be. So I'll drag that to block 1 and then not shown, and then what we will display here is the public price, the offer price, and the start and end date offers for the sales. Okay, so if I go ahead and run that, we will now see that we have a new block added below the current one, which would then be holding our sale and price values. Okay, so what I'll do then is return back here to blocks, and we're going to change here next to beside, and change here the width to 60%, and say 40% of the next one. And here I will go ahead and go no and no, and then run. Okay, so now we've created 2 different blocks, and we have here now all of our values very nicely. Now we could add here labels if we wanted to. So for instance, I could here add the prices into this one, and in here add here service description, for instance, if I could spell it correctly. So service desk will do. And now we will see we have the labels then also displayed, and they will not be dropped down either because we have that disabled here with the collapse. So if I go open, for instance, you will see that difference then. So opening it, we can now open and close this, and then by selecting no, it will just remove that option and display that as one page. So at 100%, it is like so. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back in again. And then we still have some fields here that we need to deal with. So we have here the availability field. We have here minutes that we could change or leave it even as it is. The rating, and here the date field. So I want to make some adjustments here also. Okay, so if I return back to Scriptcase, so I will access here first of all fields, and then here start date offer. Now here I will use the new option here, date display position, and I will move it from the right to below the field and apply the same to the end date offer field. So date display position below, and then I'm going to run the form again, and now we will see these two descriptions below. Okay, so that gives us a bit more area for the field and works a bit nicer for mobile devices and so on as well. Okay, and I think it looks quite nice. Okay, so let's then change now the rating field. So for the rating field, we change here the data type, and we're going to change that here to rating. And if I run that again, we'll now have a 5-star rating option. Okay, now we could make changes to that if we wanted to. We could change here the amount of icons, for instance, that are displayed. We can change the icon itself, so we can apply our own stars if we wanted to, and we can change here the subtitle that is displayed. Okay, so for within this field then form, sorry, we still have here the availability. So if I come here to available, and then here what we can do is then let's apply here a radio. And here if I go manual, I say yes, just have it available there, and we say no, and where'd my mouse go? There we go, insert, and let's change that here to 2 columns. And if I now run that, we'll have a radio button here for yes and no for availability. Okay, so let's actually change that to a switch. So if I come here, we can use here the switch option. If I check that, I'll run that again. That will then also look a little more in line with the theme that we have going on here. Okay, so now we're using the switch option, which is a little nicer. Now for the minutes that we have here, I am inclined to leave them as they are, but we could possibly even add a slider and slide that along, or let's use a spinner. So I'll add the spinner, run that, and then here you have a spin on the minutes, and you can spin that. Okay, so if we save that, now we didn't save the form. Okay, so now that we have our services grid and form ready, let's have a quick look at them together. So if I come here to services, now when I click on edit, we now have our nice new form. Go back, I go add new, and we have a nice form here to fill in. Okay, so let's go ahead and close both the services grid and the services form. Okay, and what we're going to do now is create a new application. And this time we'll create a grid, and we will select here we won't select any table. We're just going to add our own SQL select here. Okay, so we're going to select the service employees waiter table and combining it with the countries and country document table. Okay, so we have here the waiter ID, the user login, the document type, the employee number from the document, the employee name, the country, the employee phone number, and again from those 3 tables where the ID country equals the country ID, and also the ID country the doc ID equals the doc ID. Okay, so I now add a name in here, and I'm going to call this table underscore employee and waiters, and then I'm going to click create. Okay, so I now run this grid. We now see that we have a list of our employees, and we're going to run through this one and do the same again. So I'll remove here the search, details, summary, and the chart. In fact, let's leave the details because we do have some information there maybe we want to keep, and then we can actually view that. So we have the grid. I'll come here back to settings now, and the vertical alignment again here at the top, and then let's just run that quickly and see where we are. Okay, so we have here our view, so we can view the details of the employee. We have the name, country, the document. We could make some adjustments here to the field layout. So I could come here to edit fields or field positioning this time. And from here, for instance, I could either remove fields and also adjust their positioning. So I change here the name, the document, here the country, let's move that up. And so now here the document number, we can actually hide that and leave that like so. Run the app grid again, and we'll see now we have the employee name, their login, country, and their document type. So then their private information is actually not displayed there. It's displayed here within the details. Of course, we could add our own details just by adding an extra field here and creating another application which displays the information that we want to display to the end user, as we do with other applications. Okay, so just to confirm, let's come here then to the layout, the header and footer. Again, remove the date, and here, waiters, staff. Okay, and then run that, and we'll have our title there. Okay, so we will go ahead and create another application, and this time it will be for the service employees. So here again, if we apply a custom SQL statement, and this time selecting the service employees table, employee service table, again combining with the countries and country documents table. So it's pretty much identical to the previous one, just we're selecting the alternative table. Remember that both tables are very similar. So employee services. If I then go create, and here we will apply the same options again. So here I'll remove the search, summary chart, leave the grid and detail, and here we can go ahead and run that quick and just check that. And then we can apply the same again. So here in settings, vertical alignment to top, and that will bring the whole grid in now. Okay, and then let's go ahead and edit our fields again. So let's use field positioning again and just quickly hide that one, adjust here the name up and also the country. Let's save that. We can then change the header, which is then the final option that we changed here, and let's go then service staff, and then run that, and our service staff grid is now also ready. We still have here the employee number, so let's quickly hide that. I'll actually remove that one, I guess not. Okay, so run, and the grid is then ready. Okay, so for the forms, we now want to create a form. So I'll go new application, and here then I will go form, and this time I will just select their table. So here I'll select the employee service table, go create, and then create a new application again, being another form, and this time for the employee waiters. Create, and then we can really quickly go over these. So if I run this really quickly, and you'll see that both of the forms are identical. Okay, so we have the same options. The only difference again is the ID. Okay, so I run then the other one. So a slight change with just here being the ID again. Otherwise, all aspects are the same, and the values are of course different for the different tables. So okay, if we go ahead and quickly modify the table as we've done previously. So again, really quickly, settings, vertical alignment top, and we're going to set here the vertical, the inputs width to 100% and change to 100% table width. Run that, and the form already looks much better than it did previously. And as before, we can go ahead and change here from the field the date. We have here the employee birth date. We can move that date display position below, and then also access here the layout blocks and set the label to above. Now if I run that again, we'll see the same kind of layout that we have on the other applications, which is then very similar. Okay, so we do have a field here, two fields that we need to apply. So that's the country ID and the document and we can adjust the fields around and maybe even add a column in here and style this however you please. I'm not going to do that. Let's just go ahead and adjust this field here. So we have here, first of all, the ID document. And here we want to change here the data type from an integer to a selection and select. So we can change here the value, doc type, changing the label. And here for the lookup, I'm going to paste a custom select. So we're selecting here the country document and then the document type from the country document table, where the ID country and then the field country ID, being this field here, and then order it by the document type. So I'll zoom in on that so we can see that a little better. We can see from the country document where ID, being here, the country ID. So that's where we're here defining the field. Okay, so we're now going to come here to the country ID. And here again, we'll change the data type to a select. Scroll down and we can create the select here, create countries, country, and just leave that as it is. It's nice. We can even use the title and then choose the connection. So now if I save that, and if I run that now as it is, so for instance, if I go add new, we have here the country, so I can select a country, and now it should update here the document type. So that's something we still need to enable here. So here in the country ID, scroll down some more. We use Ajax here to reload other field types, and then we select here on for the ID country doc. Now if I run that now, and then go add new, I select here, say, the country, so we've got Colombia, we then have the document associated to that country displayed. Okay, so all the other fields here would be then default, so I go to 100%. That's pretty much what it would look like. The only difference here, then we need to change here the header like we did previously. So I'll come back here to layout, header and footer. I'll zoom in again, remove here the date, and here we can add staff, service staff, right? Add service staff, edit service staff. And then if I run that, we can then see the form as it would be. Okay, with the correct header. And if I go then add new, add service staff. Okay, so now that one of our service staff applications are ready, so we have here the employee services, which we've just styled. So let's see here. That's what it's now looking like. And the employee waiters, if you remember, this is an identical version of the form with the previous layout and styling. Okay, so I'm not going to go ahead and make the customizations to this one again. If you need to see it again, please just rewind and check the previous form. So what we need to do now is link here the employee service and waiters grids with the forms, because if you remember, we just created those separately. They are not linked together. So if I come here and run here the employee waiters grid, for instance, we do not have an edit button or add new, and we want to now link those applications together. So here within employee waiters, I'm going to come here to application links, and then here I will create a new link. Okay, so we want an edit link. I'll go next, and then we have here the waiters, so form table employees waiters. I'll select that one, go next. We have then the ID waiter, and then the value within this form, within this grid, is the m.id waiter, and confirm that. We can then open it in the same window, in another window, or Moodle, or however we like. So I'm just going to leave that as it is, save that, and then if I go ahead and run, we will now have the waiters grid with our form all together nicely. Okay, so and then we have there the edit also. We can go back, and then we want to apply the same for the services. So I'll do that really quickly here. Create a new link, edit link, next, and select the employee services. Again, the values, ID service employee, confirm, save, and I'll run that again. And now this time for the service staff, we have our nice form layout, which we had just created. Okay, so we now need to create a few more grids, a few more applications here. So I'm going to come here back to batch applications, and I'm going to select here the countries. Where is it? Countries. Yeah, countries, form and grid. Go next. In fact, let's just create a form for the countries. And we also want then the country document. So there we will also create a form. Go next. And multiple rows and multiple rows again. Let's go to edit. Don't need to generate the source. Let's finish. And then now with the applications created, we can then go ahead and quickly run them. So we have here the country document. Okay. So here we want to adjust the field for the ID country, change the data type to a select. And here we just want to select the countries table, country, select the connection. We can run that. And then we have then here the country displayed. Okay, so for the countries, we can run that again, run that also. And we just have a basic form with all of our countries here displayed. Okay, so the other styling here, again, for the positioning that we have for our other applications, I'm not going to apply them again now. Please see previous in this video, and you'll be able to see how it's been done. So, okay, so let's go ahead and close these. We are now ready to go ahead and create our extra folders. So here I'm going to create a new folder, and here let's call this 01, and it was reservations. Reservations. Okay. And I'll create two more folders. This one is 02. Check in. And then 03, check out. Okay, so now that these folders have been created, we're going to organize some of our other applications in here. So first of all, we have our reservations process. We will have a check-in process, and we will have a checkout process. Okay. Now in root, I'm going to go ahead and create two more folders. And now here, which will be the next applications we will be creating. Service delivery. And also in root, another one, service requests. Okay. Okay, so now that our folder structure here is completed, we have our initial administrative applications here already. So we still have one more to create here. So let's go ahead and create that quick before we finish up, which is our rooms. So I'm going to create here, first of all, the table for our room view. And again, we have here a custom SQL statement. So if I paste that in here, we are selecting and combining multiple tables again, which is then the rooms table and room types table. So here we have the room ID, the room description, the room number, the room name, the room description. The first description here is the type, sorry, and then the room description, guests, how many guests, the picture, as well as the availability and public price of the room. And if I come here and I'll call this one here table rooms, and click create. So as with previous, we could go ahead and customize this further. So let's go run that. First of all, have a quick glance. So we see here we have all of our information. The room images, I haven't uploaded them back to the database again, so you will need to add those. Not exactly going through that process within this video, I'm afraid. So first of all, here we have our initial styling. So we can leave the search. I think for a room, it's actually good to have. I will remove the summary and the chart, and then come here to settings and we can apply here some of the styling that we had within our previous applications. Okay, so with our grid application for our rooms ready, we then also need to create our room form. So let's come here and create a new application, form, and this time if I select here the table rooms, and then we can then create our form, and then straight away here in rooms, come to application links, and then create a new link, edit link, go next, and then here I will select the form rooms, and again we have the ID room as the value being passed, confirm that, and then we automatically can save, and then we can run this, and we already have our room form and grid now linked together with an add new button and the edit button. So if we run then the form for the rooms, again here we can apply our customizations. So let's really quickly apply that. So we have here first of all the settings that we would apply, so 100% width for the fields, set vertical alignment to top. If I run that quickly, we can see that we have our the initial layout that we've been working with, and we have some fields here that we need to change. So we have here the picture field, which we need to enable upload. We have here the room type, the availability, and here the room description. So let's go change those. Room description, first of all, let's change that from multiple lines to HTML editor. And here for the picture, we want to change this field here to data type, and that is image database. And here we select the other fields for the picture name and the picture size. For the available, we could use here a select or a radio again. I'll go with a radio, a manual, yes, Y, and then a no and N. Insert 2 columns also. Here for the room type, we can use a select. Let's use a radio also. And then here we can select in here the room types. And then the description, select the connection, and let's run that and have a quick look. Okay, so we have now a HTML editor, we have our picture field, we have the availability, and we have the room type that we can select from. Now, within this form, we could actually make some further changes here. So first of all, for the picture field, if I return there again, we can make adjustments to the upload area. We can even include a font or some icon. So let's do that. See, there's one for upload. I'll say a cloud upload, clickable upload area. So this hides the upload button and turns the upload area responsible for the upload function. So this is a little nicer. Okay, so then, and we can add here some extensions. So I'll add here JPEG, say 2 megabytes. To add JPG as well, 2 megabytes. And let's add a PNG, 2 megabytes as well. And maybe you want to add a BMP and also 2 megabytes. So that way we limit now the file size as well as the extension, the file type that can be uploaded. And if I run that, we then have no more here the select file, and we can just simply click that and it will open the upload folder, or we can drag and drop our files there. So the picture name and size, we can actually hide these. Name and size. The room type, we can move that around and position the fields however we like, and of course use the blocks and customize this form much further. So Within the application, within the downloadable project, this has all been customized further, and the layout positioned a little nice. I spent a little more time on that, so that is within the project which you will be able to download. So that is all for part one. In part two, we will continue and start off with our reservations process, the check-in, check-out process. And then we will see within part three that we continue with the service delivery, the requests, as well as then the creation of our security and employee access. So thank you very much for watching part one of this Scriptcase training video. Hope to see you again in part two. Check back soon. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.